There we go. Paul? Okay, good. So hi, everybody. Again, welcome to part 3 of 5 of the travel story series. Travel is interpreted by different people in different ways. I think today you're going to see that specifically. Paul told me he wants to speak about the more daily travel that human beings go on in life and what he sees through his eyes on his scooter and motorbike in the Cape and other places in South Africa. We've got Eli Rabinowitz, who's going to be talking to us from Perth, Australia, who is going to be talking about Belarus. So I think we're going like the whole world, Cape Town to Australia and back again to Asia. I've never been to Belarus, so that will be interesting to hear about that. I have been to Ukraine, which I think is a bordering country. I'm not sure. But without further ado, I'd like to thank the speakers. Paul, I'm going to make you the spotlight speaker, and just going to make sure that I can find you. There will be some questions at the end of the talk, in particular to Eli, who has offered to, if anyone wants to ask any questions, because it does involve Holocaust studies and maybe, other things, which I don't know because I haven't heard the talk, but you'll see. And Paul, just unmute yourself so we can make sure. There we go. Paul, thank you for spending time with us from Pringle Bay when you're on vacation. And tell us, a little bit about what you want to, where are we going on this travel with you?
Firstly, thank you very much, Ryan, for inviting me to be a speaker on your program. Firstly, can everyone hear me? Ryan, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Maybe just keep your phone a little bit away from your face so we can see you.
Okay, there we go. Fine. Just let me know if you can't hear me, please. Okay. Yeah, again, thank you very much for inviting me to talk on this brilliant, at this brilliant platform. If I can share a little bit about myself, I moved from Johannesburg to Cape Town in 2013. So I'm a first-generation Muizenberger. I'd had enough of the rat race and the humdrum, and I wanted to follow my creativity. So I decided to move to Muizenberg, and I opened a little venue that I called Slow Life, which incidentally has to do with one of the lessons that I'm going to speak of in travel. I called my business Slow Life. It was very much a business that kind of encapsulated the arts. So it showed movies. I was involved in live music shows. I was involved in poetry, in food, in all those different avenues. What I also got to realize when I moved to Muizenberg, or what I got to discover, was that there'd been this very, very prevalent Jewish culture, which I was unaware of. And it's really one of the things that inspired me to, for example, start this Facebook page, A Jewish Muizenberg, where I do believe that perhaps there's an opportunity for us to initiate a new movement in Muizenberg of Jewishness. And again, for thanks to you, Ryan, for this clear kind of upwelling of Jewish support. With respect to the title of this talk, Lessons Learned in Travel, I got to thinking about how travel isn't necessarily, taking 2 weeks off to fly to New York. It's very, very, very specifically for me, traveling on a daily basis, doing my walk, for example. And I thought I'd talk about that. Every morning at about 5:30, I wake up, put my walking gear on, get my flippers, my snorkel, my goggle, and I walk over to my neighbor's house to pick up Frankie, who's my absolute love. She's a crossbreed, kind of medium-sized dog, and off we go down Ponder Steps, which is the set of steps that leads from my road down to the main road, and we travel through Lever Road Park, and from Lever Road Park we head to Main Road, Main road is the road that pretty much sends traffic either south to Cape Point or north to the city. We walk along Main Road in the dark and are very excited. And pretty much as we get to Delbrook Pool, which is a world famous tidal pool, we are greeted by a myriad of swimmers. They call themselves the polar bear swimmers. I'm one of them. We're called that because we pretty much are fearless when it comes to swimming in icy cold water. So yeah, we walk along the side of the pool, up the little rocky outcrop on the other side, and down there and down another staircase to what we call Dangers. Dangers is so called pretty much because of its mighty rip, which has sent many a capable adult swimmer into the ocean. I'd like to share some photographs, if I may. There are a couple that I should have shared earlier that I haven't shared that I'm going to share now. Let me just go to my photos. Okay, so there's that one from my house. I'll do that one. That one's shared. That one's from my house looking down at the Cork Bay Harbour. I'm going to stop that share and select another one. I'm now going to share with you a picture of the Lever Road Park. We play pool there every Wednesday night. So I'm missing out this evening.
Sorry.
From there, a couple of incredible photographs of Delbrook Pool. The first one I'm going to show is walking under the railway line to the pool. This one is of my dear friend Oscar Gutierrez, who's a world-renowned photographer. It's a picture that his partner took of him at the pool on a very cloudy day.
Paul, are you the real octopus teacher?
No, that's the other thing that I should have mentioned, which I intended to mention earlier on. Cork Bay in 2018 became famous when it was voted by Forbes magazine as being one of the 10 coolest neighborhoods in the world. And that's cool not as in temperature, that's cool as in culture. So I had to share that, and that's the first thing. The second thing is Pippa Ehrlich, who produced The Octopus Teacher, cites her motivation for producing the documentary Cork Bay as being her main one of her main motivating forces. So yeah, she won the Oscar for The Octopus Teacher a couple of weeks ago. There's some ladies reveling in the cool waters of Delbrook Pool.
Now we go.
Oh, here's another incredible photograph. I have to say, I started a Facebook page to honor Delbrook Pool, and we get the most incredible photographs. Look at that one. Okay, and over we go now, heading in a northerly direction after Delbrook Pool across this kind of rocky section. Here I take Frankie off her lead. And then I wanted to try and select I don't know, Ryan, if I can share. Can I share a video, or can I only share still photos?
I'm not sure. You can try. I've never shared a video before.
Yeah, let me try.
I think it's difficult. I don't know if you can share a
yeah,
video.
it doesn't give me an option to share videos.
But maybe just describe it to us.
Yeah. So what happens is down the other side of the rocky section, you get to Dangers, this beach with a mighty rip, and Frankie just is in heaven here. She kind of tosses and turns, chases bits of kelp, plays with other dogs, and is and as she's in heaven, I'm in heaven, because for me to kind of run around with her is just such fun. So yeah, that's what happens at Dangers. On the other side of Dangers, we go up another staircase, and there we have this kind of grassy section. And after the grassy section are the colorful beach huts, much like what they have on Muizenberg Beach. And just beyond there are groups of people, friends, who are getting ready for their swim. The conversation is usually around the temperature. I don't know why, though, because we all swim regardless of whether it's 11 degrees Celsius or 13. But we all kind of don our gear. Some people their wetsuits, some of us just our swimming trunks, and in we jump for usually 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah, after that, me and a couple of my friends do what we call it the Zach Bush. Now it's named after a TV doctor by the name of Zach Bush, who highly recommends a set of exercises. And that's what this thing is made. This little routine is made of, and it really gets our kind of blood flowing. And more than anything, because we do it pretty much in front of everyone, you know, it's a show of our absolute strength. So, yeah. And I think,
Paul,
yeah,
if I could stop you for a second, Paul, can you explain maybe to me and to others who are wondering, what possesses someone to wake up at 5 a.m. and go swim in the freezing cold water every day of the year?
I think, you know, initially it was a clear, you know, I'm just an early riser, so I'm up anyway early to go and swim. But I did notice after a time a benefit, and that benefit really kind of was a sort of propelling me into the day. You know, if I woke up in the morning and had breakfast, for example, and started working or went to a meeting, or went for a walk, it wouldn't by any means have the same effect on my psyche and my energy levels as jumping into, well, in the winter, you know, 13-degree water. And then after a time, we obviously got to hear about Wim Hof and his fantastic technique, which is pretty much the same as what we do. So that was kind of an affirmation of how swimming in cold water could benefit us. And it was that motivates me every morning, really. You know, more than meeting, or actually I couldn't compare the two, but the one thing is obviously meeting all my friends, walking Frankie. Mostly it's submerged itself in icy cold water and coming out feeling, you know, not just refreshed, just like a new person, but quite quite magical, you know, quite I don't even know the word. There's no word that comes to mind. I feel almost otherworldly, and that's it, Ryan. That's what gets me in there, mate.
Okay. Can I ask you? And if I can hold the camera to your face and just hold it still. Someone's been saying that, you know, the camera. There we go. That's better. That's better. Okay, Paul. Keep on.
Okay, can I do on it a little bit, or my time isn't finished yet?
Just hold the camera so that we can see your face as opposed to the side of your head.
No. So
no, you can. You can just hold your camera straight so we can see you.
With respect, the lesson. Sorry, excuse me. The lesson.
You can only see your ear.
Lesson that really comes to me whenever I swim, and that is pretty much in the presence of beauty, and in slowing down, real human connection, a deep human connection, a real human connection is found, and that's really for me the lesson in my daily travels to Delbrook Pool or to St. James Pool. Yeah, so that's something that's quite profoundly obvious, and that I thought I would share. I also thought I would share just quickly with respect to kind of travel, as you know, as per the 2 weeks overseas are concerned. Ever since I was a kid, have traveled I've been to, I used to visit Umschlanger as a kid. After that, I went on a month-long trip, a Habonim trip to Israel. A year later, I spent some time in Australia. At the end of the 80s, I was lucky enough to take a gap year to Europe, where I traveled from Spain, across France, to England, then to Italy, Greece, and Turkey. In the mid-2000s, I was lucky enough to win a trip to New York City. A year after that, I went to Jamaica, Argentina, and Mexico, and again to the States. And really, the lessons in those travels for me, what I came to realize was that when I traveled without good friends or without family, I found that my journeys were somewhat stifled. And the lesson for me there was just very much how important being with family and being with loved ones is in travel. And I thereby end my talk. I thought I would end it with a spectacular view. If I can just, I'm going to turn my camera around, and this is a view of the Pringle. This is a view of the Pringle Bay beachfront, with the high tide coming in.
Beautiful. Well, Paul, enjoy it for us. And the only thing that I want to say with regard, I love Pringle Bay. I mean, who doesn't love Pringle Bay? The one thing, Paul, I'm not sure if you can still hear me or not.
I can hear you fine.
Paul, I just wanted to say, Paul, first of all, thank you. Second of all, enjoy Pringle Bay. Third of all, I relate a lot to your first story of going and dunking into the water early morning. I myself, for over a decade, made a deal with God. It wasn't so much with God, it was actually with another person, but it had to do with God. That every time we were in water, we would jump in and have a mikveh, which, you know, is the traditional Jewish thing that women do after menstruation. But there is a tradition for that, you know, water is a healing property. It's healing in the Hindi tradition. It's healing in the Arab tradition. It's healing in the Jewish, the Christian. I don't know a tradition that water is not healing, to be honest. And I made a deal with this other person that we would go and jump in wherever we were in the world, no matter how wild the water was, no matter how cold the water was. I've been in mikvahs in the Alaskan glacier waters, in the Montana National Park, all these crazy, crazy cold places around the world. And I will tell you that the Ari mikvah in Sfat is still one of the coldest. Okay, so all those dudes in Sfat, they're hard, okay? Those people who want to go into the cold water, but thank you. There is such a thing called cold water therapy. There's a whole, you know, new thing about it. I'm sure there's books about it, about how not hot water heals you, but actually cold water heals you. And, you know, Paul, you got us thinking about maybe reviewing those books again, because I know how healthy it is for you and your lifestyle. And thank you for sharing that, and just enjoy Frankie. Now we're going to go to a completely different... Sure, Paul. Thank you.
Thank
now
you,
we're
everyone,
going to go
for
to
listening.
completely different. Yeah. Okay, cool. We're going to go to a completely different part of the world now, which is Perth, Australia. But that's only to get on an airplane to go to Belarus. I met Eli online, because I've never met him in person yet, but hopefully that will happen at some point. But Eli is one of those people who seems to me to be not very connected, because I think that would be an understatement. When I say connected, you know, some people are connected to each other in terms of relationship. This is a person who has tentacles in, I would say, you know, half of the Jewish countries in the world. Forget about communities, just everywhere. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about it and what he does and what this trip was. I'm talk for an hour at least about this. But Eli, I just wanted to give a very brief intro that Eli, I met Eli through the Musenberg Remember Musenberg series, because he collects information of Jewish people around the world, and he puts them onto websites that have access. I'm just gonna mute someone. Okay. And he allows Jews to learn about other Jews, essentially. And I think that that's a very, very noble thing to do, Eli. So thank you for agreeing to speak and for sharing with us about Belarus. I'm sure there's some people in this talk who are from Belarus, who have family from Belarus. So that will be very meaningful to them. But most of us who are from Lithuania descent, it's also very, very nearby. I think my great-grandfather was from Minsk. So maybe you can verify if that is in Minsk or not in a second. I'm going to make you the spotlight, and then please, Eli, take us to Belarus in whichever class of travel you wish.
Okay. You're a funny guy, funny Rabbi. Musenberg, I'm a sequel. I hope we don't have any conflict here tonight. Now, we didn't get the screen working properly, but we'll manage with it. I can see what I want to talk about. I am quite unusual in the sense I was born in Cape Town at the Del Herby, of a very illustrious family. And I can say to you guys there that I've seen two of my cousins. One is Solly Berger, who's hiding over there in Cape Town. And the other one is Ferry Kosek. And Ferry is from Budapest. And Ferry was on the screen a few minutes ago, and I think he's still there. I've met Ferry in Budapest. I've never met him in Cape Town, but he's from the same Zeldin family. So any of you that have been around for a long time would know the Zeldin, would know Socher, my grandfather, and would know my grandmother, yes? Chassa. So, and whether it's Berger, Zinn, Rabinowitz, Spiller, these are all the daughters who came to South Africa in the 30s. And it's lovely to see Ferry again. I didn't expect him. There's also somebody else very special I've just seen, and we're talking about Belarus, and that's Tamara Vyshitskaya. Now, Tamara is not family, but I've met Tamara 3 times. Tamara is the expert on Belarus, and when I met her, she was running the museum of the, there's Tamara, of the Jewish resistance and defiance, and she is the expert. You may have seen her on a few of those Who You Think You Are programs. That's where I first heard about her, on the one on the Kaplinsky, okay, Natasha Kaplinsky, who was a BBC announcer and is a cousin to Solly and Benny Kaplinsky, spelled differently, if I may say. They have their end is an I, whereas Natasha is with a Y, but they are cousins. And Tamara was the expert because their family was from Slonim. So I'm going to talk about Belarus, off the subject, but it's still Belarus, okay? And as you can see from the title, it's about the Bielski Partisans. So I've already introduced this because obviously Tamara knows a lot about the Bielskis, and she organized in 2019 a huge reunion of the Bielskis and people like me in Novogrudok, which is where they escaped from in the tunnel, okay, from the ghetto, and also in Naliboki, which was in the forest, where they eventually landed up. Now, because Tamara is here, I have to be very careful what I say, because sometimes I get my facts a bit wrong, but she can correct me in the chat if she wants to. But the important thing is that I think for many years we've had, although we didn't realize, we've had someone like Tamara over there who has done amazing stuff with the late Jack Kagan, who then memorialized the history of the Jews, with partisans or the Jews that were murdered in Belarus. But the important thing is that we connect with that. And obviously most South Africans are regarded as of Litvak origin, but I take it that Belarus is also Litvak. But the important thing is that my wife's family were from Belarus, okay, from Mir. So a lot of people who came to South Africa were from Mir or from Slonim. And it's very important while I'm not going to show you the maps, while we understand the geography. And yes, what was the question? Minsk is in...
Yeah, my great-grandfather. So I have Belarus blood in me.
Yeah. But the problem with Minsk today is that Minsk is not such a happy place, as Tamara could tell us.
Okay.
And that's unfortunately because of the politics, and we're not going to talk politics, but it was even unhappier, of course, for Jewish people in terms of the Holocaust and the life there. But what's important about my talk is that I'm a very positive, optimistic guy. I have to be. I live in Perth, which is the arse end of the world, so we're far away from everywhere. Okay, so if you want to go to Belarus, if you want to go to South, you can't go to Southern. And I've been visiting virtually every year. I've lived here 35 years. You can see from my accent, I haven't lost anything at all. We still have family in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and our connections are very much there. As much as South Africans' connections are with Lithuania and with Belarus and with Poland or wherever. But the important thing is that we do connect and we understand our history and that we try and make a better world. That's what Elie Wiesel said in one of the videos. He made a very short video at Yad Vashem, is we try and do something that we have a better environment that we live in. That's the important thing. So many cases today, we don't point fingers at people and say, you did that, you did that. We leave that to a gentleman called Grant Gottschen, and he does a very good job at that, okay, at the Lithuanians, rightfully so. But from my point of view, my perspective is to connect with my heritage. And that's why I've traveled. Last year wasn't a good year, traveled to South Africa, but I've traveled 11 times to Lithuania and to Poland, and Belarus 3 times. Remembering that Belarus isn't an easy country to get into, it did improve. So the first time I went there, I had to spend like $200 to get a visa from London, and I had to send my passport by courier to London and to get the visa, and then I had to travel in a bus from Warsaw to Brest or Brisk, okay, where my Zayda, Nachum and Rabinowitz had a past life there. And it wasn't sort of that easy to travel around. In many cases, it appears very third world. Compared to Lithuania next door, it's very third world. And compared to Poland, it's very, very, very third world. But nonetheless, I found it a very pleasant place to travel. So the first time I traveled by bus from Warsaw to Brest, and then I went up through Baranowiki, and then I met Tamara in Novogrudok, and then we went around. She showed me everything. We went to Grodno to get some records, and then we went, not music records, you know, and then we went to Mir, and then she put me on the bus and I went to Minsk. Okay, but since then, that was in 2012. Since then, I went back in 2018 because Tamara was organizing a very important event, which was the Bielski Reunion, the Bielski Partisans Reunion. And there were a few hundred people that she organized. Now, Novogrudok, which is where they escaped through the tunnel, is a one-horse town in a way. It's not a big place. Very, very little accommodations. So everyone that came to the conference stayed in a different place. And in actual fact, tomorrow, even $5 a night in the Catholic Church. But a few of us stayed in the Catholic Church, otherwise we would have had to pitch a tent. And the thing is that at the same place that I stayed was the last surviving brother of the Bielski, Aaron Bell, as he calls himself today. I think he's in his way into his 90s. He's a lively character. And the thing is that he lives in Florida, and the stories about the brothers are quite amazing and fascinating. And what I'm doing with this talk tonight, and I'm talking more than I'm showing, is that I've prepared a resource file, which everyone's welcome to have. So it's up to either you contact me or Ryan, Rabbi Ryan will send it to you. I'm happy to send it to you. And what that resource file has got is different files all about, mostly about Belarus. So I'm just going to scroll through them quickly that I can see, but you can't. We could try and load it, or we can keep going. What do you want to do, Ryan?
Eli, try load it. Let's see if it works this time.
So I'm going to go to share screen. We're doing this all together. Okay. Share screen.
Yeah. So
we're going to go to Google Drive. That's what we did the first time around.
correct.
Click on that. Okay. There it is. Connect. Maybe that's what it was. Connect. I'm getting lots of screens here. This is cool. Okay. I'm
Give you a minute. There's no rush.
Okay. Look for the file. Okay. Lots of files here. I've forgotten the file name. Well, that's strange. You just try.
I'll give you a minute. In the meantime, I'm sending your email address to everyone on this chat.
Okay, cool.
So that there've been some requests already. So whoever wants the Eli's address, just look in the chat. It's coming any minute.
And now I'm going to press share screen. This is the telling moment.
So let's check if it works.
Yes, no, maybe.
Not yet. Not yet.
No. Not yet
No.
means no.
No.
It's not there. No. Okay. So that's fine. You're all going to get to see what this thing is when we send it to you, because it's definitely not loading here. So let me just close that. You can still see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay.
And Sonny Berger is sharing his screen.
Well, he's my senior cousin. He could do whatever he wants, but can you tell him?
Okay. I'm gonna just Okay, Eli, continue.
Oh, look,
I think you're on. Are you on? We see somebody's email.
Somebody's fiddling around.
Okay, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to unshare the option for people to share so that we only see you.
Okay, because I don't know where that looked like. Who's that guy?
Yeah. There's someone sharing their screen. They don't know. Okay.
Okay, I've got competition.
Yeah. Okay, you're back.
Okay. Can you load your file so they don't have to look at me, and I'll just scroll.
I can share some of the pictures while you're speaking. Just randomly, I'll share some of them. Keep going, and I'll share some of the photos.
Okay, cool. So what I've got in this file that you're all welcome to share is a list of links, and the links, first of all, contain the Kehillah links that I run for Jewish Gen. There are 88 of them. But on the particular list that I've given you here, okay, so I'll go back to, that was the brochure that Tamara put together. And below that was part of the crowd at the first meeting that we had in Novogrudok. And many speeches were made. And of course, they had politicians and they had Bielskis and what you call it, descendants of the Bielskis, and Aaron Bell himself, and Tamara was the MC. Can you scroll to the next picture, because we might as well do it this way.
Okay, I just have to do them one by one.
Oh, you have to do them one by one. Okay.
Yeah.
We've gone back to 1900 technology. Okay.
Yeah.
So there we go. So I'd met Tamara there the year before, and it was amazing the kind of work that they did. If I may explain, any of you who've got ancestry from other places like Bij or Bijai or Kaidan, like I have, or Sedova, that there have been many commemorations taking place in the last few years. So the thing is that it's difficult right now as we talk to get around the world, but people have been coming to these centers to commemorate the Jews that lived there, their ancestors, and also the Jews that were murdered there, because in many cases in Lithuania, the whole village was taken out. Okay, so in this case, this is more a pointed or directed at the partisans who, and this is where the tunnel was, where they escaped, and then they went into the forest. So if you can go to the next group.
Okay. Sure. You want okay,
whatever you
this is the next one I have. Okay.
Okay. So here we go. Here is the wall and the people who came along. And they came from all over the world, from South Africa, Australia, America, Israel, the UK. So tomorrow, as I said, I'm plugging her big time because I didn't expect it to be here, but she did an excellent job. The lower picture there, you will see a lady called Nance Adler, who's from Seattle. Then there's Aaron Bell, or Bielski, and then his wife, Hendrika, and myself. They live in Florida. And again, quite interesting characters. This is actually us in the Catholic Church because we all stayed there. Nance is an interesting person. She had no connection, Jewish lady, had no connection to the Bielskis like myself, but we've worked together. I actually got funding from the US government for her to come and visit Australia and do some, not tours, some lectures with schools and universities here on upstanders. And what was quite interesting is that Nance picked up the idea from what I had supplied with sort of raw materials and resources on an Aboriginal gentleman called William Cooper, who stood up for the Jews in 1938 at the time of Kristallnacht, and he marched to demonstrate with what he had read was happening to the Jews. So it's interesting, this whole concept is called upstanders. And if we think of the Bielski Partisans in Belarus, they were upstanders because in many cases, people just had no other option, and that was the end of them. What I want to say about upstanders is I've also got quite a few resources. So this is a resource that's put together by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, and it's about the Bielski Partisans. But what's very important about this is if you're an educator or if you want to learn more, is that it gives you the story, it gives you the breakup, very detailed, I think. And then at the end, it also then has questions. So the important thing is you start thinking about, were the partisans upstanders? Why were they hiding in the forest? Why did the Bielskis invite women and children, families, to come and live in the forest with them? Because it was very unusual, because normally you would have like a fighting group and they would travel. I think at the end, in 1944, there were 1,270 odd people that were part of this group, okay? And they survived. So it is quite amazing when you think of the story of the Bielskis and of what happened in the forest. Now, when you go and in your picture, you should have how. So there are 4 little pictures in the top photograph. If you look at them, you'll see the top left one is all these people like myself walking through the forest. The second one is someone like Tamara or somebody else giving us explanation of what we were seeing there. And just remembering that all those years afterwards, they still have found artifacts in the scrub there in the bush. Then that picture on the bottom left-hand side is me putting on tefillin. So this young gentleman, who's a descendant of a Bielski, brought his tefillin along from America, and he decided that this would be a good idea to commemorate the place where these Bielski partisans lived and where they survived, and they fought as well. They had to get food, they had to steal food, they had to do lots of things. So it is very inspiring when you look at the environment and then you see what actually happened there. And then on the right-hand side at the bottom is myself with all these gorgeous ladies. Thanks for making it bigger. Okay. And again, there's Tamara, second from the right. Okay. And these other ladies are all descendants of the Bielskis, coming from, I think the lady next to me on the left with the red duk, I don't know what you call it, is from Israel, and I think the other ladies were from America. What have we got below there? Did we have another picture? Was that it? Okay.
We've got.
Okay, so this picture's fine. It's me talking about the partisan song, because one of the things that is, okay, cool. One of the things that I've decided to focus on is the Partisan song, which was written by Hirsch Glick, but that was in the Vilna ghetto. And there is a connection between the Vilna ghetto and the Partisan. You may know, and I've got books, for example, you can't see me. Oh, you can see me. This is Abba Kovner, okay, who is around the story called The Avengers. So there are books, there are movies about it. I'm not necessarily selling them. I'm just promoting something that one wants to read more about. It is very much that the case. The book by Nechama Tech, which is about the Bielski Partisans. Now, what's very important, it's called Defiance. What any of you guys would know Mervyn Danker, who used to be at Herzliya many, many years ago, and he came to Perth as well many, many years ago, and he lives in Oakland, California. They used this book with the movie as a very important resource material to explain what the Bielskis were up to. And it's very accurate. It's been written in a very accurate way, okay? And the Bielski family were actually involved in the making of the movie. I do have a clip there, which is, there's a link to it, but we won't watch it tonight or today. But very important is to bring the different forms of media together. So all I'm talking to you is about my 3 trips there, and how it links into building our knowledge about Belarus and about the Bielskis and about this particular area. There's Tamara again giving us a lecture, and then the family standing outside waiting. Yeah. Okay, my wife's saying I'm speaking for 20 minutes. Keep going, is that right, Ryan?
Keep going,
okay.
Keep going.
Okay, next series of pictures. Okay, so that was an article in the Cape Jewish Chronicle about that trip. Thank you for jumping. Just go, yeah, okay. So that was written by, I think it was written by me, okay, with nice tutelage by Tali
Feinberg.
Thank you. And so that was a nice picture of me with the young Bielski and putting on tefillin. And again, all these things will be provided to you in the links. They're all there. What we got next there? There was something below that I spied. Okay, so below that, which is very interesting. That's fine. So there's a crowd in front here, and then in the back there are politicians. One was the Israeli ambassador to Belarus. Hopefully he's still there. And in fact, Israel and Belarus had a fairly reasonable relationship. When I was there the last time, I flew directly from Minsk to Tel Aviv on Belavia, which is their national airline, which is banned from everywhere just about these days because of what happened there about a month ago with the guy that was taken off the Ryanair plane. So it was an incredible event. I've never attended an event like this. The other one that was quite, I think, impressive was the one at Burj, which I know that Benny Rabinowitz from Cape Town was very involved with, and Veronica Belling was also there, and lots of other people. So, as I said, these commemorations are very important, especially this time, lest we forget kind of thing, and just to make sure that we commemorate the people that were there and pulled us through is very important. Okay, what we got next after that? Okay, so we'll just hold that for a second. So the other things I just wanted to tell you is that there are links to, for example, the Beit Aaron Bielski School in Pinsk. Now, Pinsk is about 4 hours down the road from the airport, and most probably another 3 hours back up to Novogrudok. And there's a British rabbi there, Rabbi Fima, and he has done an amazing work at this school, this yeshiva, got some very important funding. And so you can read about that as one of the links as well. I've got links on these various commemorations in Belarus, also the year before. And Tamara and Alexander took me around and showed me what their plans were for 2019. So you'll see that as well. Okay, so what I've also got as links here, before we go into those pictures, and we're doing quite well, yes, is that we had Heather Blumenthal then was working for her Spirit sister organization before she came to the Holocaust Museum in Cape Town. And she made a movie on my work with Herzliya School, because I do a lot of work with schools, and Herzliya and King David up in Johannesburg have been very supportive, especially Herzliya, in the kind of projects that we've done in terms of commemoration, and also with Herzliya. You may have seen it, may not, on Simcha TV, but it was repeated quite recently. One of our aunts in Cape Town saw it. Am I being
just want to
timed
show
out?
everyone, what we're talking about in terms of your links. We can't,
Yes.
they're not live, but just so that people know what we're talking about here.
They're locked in there, yes. So they're all like the Novogrudok tunnel, and that explains that. Now, if you just stop there for a second, whoops, did I see it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, stop. Okay, it was somewhere, there it is. Muizenberg High School. So one of the things is that I went to the False Bay Theatre with my wife's cousins, and we met one of them came with the principal of Muizenberg High School, and she loved the idea of what I was doing with Herzliya. So she said, can you come in on Monday morning and talk to our kids? And that's what I did. So you'll see there's a nice link to Muizenberg High School. And I like to connect things back to each other. So you're moving the screen. So, okay, whoops. So this Hans Kimmel essays, what's interesting, that's Marai College in Sydney, which has had a lot of ex-South African or expat students at that school. Hans Kimmel was a man himself who was a survivor, and he came out to Sydney. One of those essays there you will find on the Kaplinsky family, on Benny and Solly's father, who was the doctor with the Bielski Partisans. Okay, and that was written as a project by Benny's daughter at Marai College in Sydney. So Marai College has a very interesting way of getting kids to get involved in their histories, and that's exactly what that's about. But there are other essays as well. As I said to you, Defiance, there's some information on Defiance on the book, if you want to get the book. And on the partisan from Vilna, although that's Vilna, as I said, there was a connection between the partisans there. Abakovna, Rachel Margolis, the late Rachel, was one of them. Yeah. Okay. Just we're getting to the end here. There's never end with me, but we're getting to the end. Just don't log off. But in any case, you have. But I'll just talk about it. I can see it on my screen. So I have managed to get a grant from the US government. This was a couple of years ago, and we brought that educator Nance out, and Nance then joined me in Belarus, and we've got a lot of like crossovers. Some of our work is now being incorporated into the Victoria, which is Melbourne, Holocaust curriculum, and we're working on our state here as well. There are people like the Jewish Partisans Education Fund in San Francisco, and Sherry Rosenbaum was at the particular commemoration in Belarus as well. So people came from a lot of different places. What you're seeing there on the right-hand side are the commemorations and the start of a museum called the Loschstettel Museum in Shadowa. It has very strong South African connections. And you may see a guy there with holding something. That's Sergei Kahanowitz, who came out to South Africa a couple of years ago to interview people who had connections with this town. And there I made a little speech because I was the token Litvak, or proper South African Litvak, at this meeting. And then below that is the ongoing activities in a place called Kaidan or Kadani. And that is a bunch of students and teachers and visitors who've come along, and over time, and the teacher in that school, Lima, has actually done a family tree related back to a guy called Soref, Avram Shlomo Zalman Soref, who's my third great grandfather, who was part of the Prussian movement that went to Jerusalem, and he was a disciple of the Gaon of Vilna. And that family today is 25,000 strong, called the Salomon family. And so there, a way that maybe is different to other people, it's a bit tangential. So all I'm saying to you is that I love doing this kind of work. I love connecting people. I think it's very important that we all contribute in a way. Now, it's not financial. So let me give you the final thing, Musenberg, because I want to plug you guys in Cape Town. So Musenberg had this fantastic exhibition that Joy Crockman and others put together, and it started in Cape Town, went to Joburg, went to Israel, went to London, and then I brought it out to Australia, and we had it in Melbourne, Sydney twice, and in Perth, and then it went to Canada and to to America, like San Diego, it was there as well. So it's very important that we share, and I know Ryan did an amazing job with his Musenberg series, but that we share the stories. So we already had, I know like Batya Sherman already gave me her story that she told, and a lovely picture of her at Musenberg School in primary school. So I also do the Kilo link for Cape Town. I've got, I think there's 21 in South Africa. But if you've got stories that you know that you can share with others, there's no money. It's just being able to share a story, a few pictures. It doesn't have to be long and big and fancy. But I'm meeting people around the world who, Musenberg's a very good example of people all over the world that had connections with Musenberg. As you know, the exhibition itself, Leonard Weinreich wrote a beautiful story about it. He lives in London, and other people did in your series. So I do hope that this just encourages people to think about it and to join up. Okay. It's lovely. It's lovely looking one's history, even if it's sad history like in Belarus. But at the end of the day, we're doing something that's good. Okay, it's a mitzvah. Okay, so there you go.
First of all, thank you. And even without the tech, it was still very interesting. And I know that a lot of people couldn't give a talk like you just gave, where you don't know which pictures are coming up, because I don't know which pictures I should put up, but you gave a flawless talk that was very interesting, and it is an amazing story. There's been quite a few people who wanted to say something, and I'm going to allow them to just, say certain things. I know I might get some names wrong. The first person who wanted to comment on swimming in cold water, I think is your friend from Hungary, Kozek Ferenc. So I'm going to allow you to, sorry if I said your name wrong, but please, it's an honor to have you here wherever you're coming from. I'm going to unmute you and then just add you as a spotlight, and please say whatever you want to with regards to Paul, with regards to whoever's here, whatever you wish. Just unmute yourself. Do you know how to unmute your screen? You just have to click the mute button. We'll give you a minute, so don't worry. There's no pressure. And I think after that will be Michelle. I know that you also wanted to say something. You put your hand up. So.
Is it okay now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So that I would like to introduce myself, and the story about cold water is not so important. It was just I wanted to tell it because it belongs to the story of the bathing in cold water, but it's less interesting. I have some more interesting events and stories that I can tell you. First of all, about the connection that my grandmother was the younger sister of Saher. Saher. What was his last name? This was a person who lived in Latvia, in the town called Dvinsk, which is now called in the Latvian language Daugavpils, and there were, I think, 10 siblings, but 3 of them died as in childhood, so that there were actually 7 of them, and I think the oldest sibling, Zahir, left Latvia in 26, I think, and settled down in South Africa. Is it okay? So do you know what I am speaking about?
So I'll just say there was Soccer Zeldin, who's Sonny and my grandfather.
He was your grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah, and my grandmother was the younger sister of Zahir. Her name was Sassia Zeldin. No, but which belongs to the story that this couple, so my grandfather, who was what's the name, Ben Zion Eidus, and his wife Hassia Zeldin had 2 children, a girl and a boy. The girl was my mother, and the boy, the younger from the couple, is Leslie, and they settled down in Szeged, which is a town a city in Hungary, and my grandfather was originally he was a dental technician, and then later he gets the right to work a dentist work, so that's almost like a dentist.
Yes, very. Can I just interrupt a bit, because I know we've got limited time. Why don't I share as part of this thing? I've got the time when you came to visit Cape Town.
That time there was an international conference about human rights, and that time I was the leader of the so-called Hungarian Helsinki Committee, which is organization to protect human rights. And
I can share that, because I think I can see there are quite a few people that want to ask questions about what we spoke about. So maybe this one we can do as
just short is that in that time, that means that between the 2 world wars, there was limitation for Jewish students to go to university, and so therefore there was a limited number of students accepted at the university in Hungary, and therefore my uncle went to learn to study medicine to Vienna. But in the meantime, Hitler occupied Austria, and so it was not possible for him to stay in Vienna. And he as a friend of him, decided to go to Königsberg, East Prussia, and they went to the decan of the medical faculty and told him that they are Hungarian Jews and they would like to finish university in Königsberg. And interestingly, they accepted this permit, so that my uncle has a diploma with a Nazi weapon, with a Adler and swastika. But which is interesting that after that, he decided not to return to Hungary, but he went to stay in Vilna, Lithuania. That was that time Poland. And he started to make he started learning psychiatry. So he wanted to be a psychiatrist. And during this time, first of all, the Russian army came into Lithuania, and secondly, the German army. And the first really terrible killing and murders happened in Lithuania. So some people say that the Holocaust started, as a matter of fact, in Lithuania. My uncle had a story that two Nazi Gardists, Lithuanian people, Litvaks, wanted to bring him into the court and to shoot him. But on the staircase, a German officer came upstairs who was a patient of him from before, and he stopped this group, and he asked him, well, what's happening? And Litvaks said that we bring him to the court to shoot him because he's a Jew. And then the officer said, wait, I have to talk to the commander here. So he went upstairs, and after some minutes, he came back and said to the Litvaks, go away because this man is free. So that rescued my uncle from the execution, and then he was able to return to Hungary. He was drafted to force paper service, but he survived the war, and then at the very end he lived in Canada. This is the story.
Good.
Thank you, Kostek. That was a beautiful story. I could listen to you speak for the whole day because I haven't heard accents like you're speaking since my late grandparents. So I love hearing it. I mean, I don't need to ask you, do you speak Yiddish? Because I already know the answer to that.
I can speak German, but I cannot speak Yiddish.
Oh, you can't speak Yiddish. Okay, well,
no, I cannot. I can speak German.
Okay, and thank God you gave memory to your uncle, and it pays to be a psychiatrist in more than one way. Again, now that really was an interesting story. Does anyone else? I think Solly Berger. Did anyone else want to say something?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if Solly. Yeah, go for it, Solly.
Well, I'd just like to fill in a few gaps. Eli and I are first cousins, but what he didn't mention was that his mother, my mother, and 4 other sisters all came out with Issachar. That's our grandfather. They came out in the 1920s and the 1930s, and they came from Latvia, in fact. So you didn't even mention the Latvian connection, Eli. I think all the sisters are turning in their graves that you never mentioned the But anyway, just another story about Ferry, and Eli's got a wonderful story to tell. I don't know if you've got time for him to tell the story. But Ferry was coming out he came out to South Africa in 2001. He represented the human rights of the school. I think that had something to do with Switzerland, although he came from Hungary. And he actually stayed with us. But the modest person that he is, he was part of the partisan group in Hungary. And not only that, he became, I think he was arrested, but after that he became a member of the Hungarian parliament. So he came out for the infamous Durban 1. I mean, I think we all remember that. Wonderful man. It was lovely to see him on Zoom tonight, this afternoon. I don't know how he managed to get in. He made contact with him, but he was a very important person in the opposition in the Hungarian Parliament. That's what I wanted to add. If Eli could tell you the story how the two of them to come to Cape Town instead of going straight to Durban, it's also a lovely story to tell. And that story appeared in the Jewish Chronicle at the time. Anyway, Eli, nice seeing you. Very lovely seeing you again.
It was really a pleasure to see you, all of you.
Thanks, Sonny, and thank Kozak. I'm wondering if Tamara, are you in Belarus tomorrow, if I may ask? Are you there right now? Or I know that you're an important person in this presentation.
Well, I was in Belarus, but I know very, very little about. I know only the general things about the political situation in Belarus.
And Tamara, are you able to hear us? Can you? I don't know if you talk English. I really don't know much about you, but I'm just asking if you feel comfortable. Do you want to just share any thoughts or any comments? That we're in South Africa. This is shared to the world, so feel free to say anything if you wish.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Sure.
Well, I thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I thank you, Eli, for presenting the Bielski Partisans story a little bit and a little bit about the reunion which we organized. Well, I set up the museum, very special museum for Belarus and very special for post-Soviet countries, which is called Jewish Resistance Museum in Novogrudok, which is Belarus. Yes, I am in Belarus. I am in Novogrudok. I don't work for the museum any longer since April this year because of the situation that we have in the country. But I still continue doing lots of things to research to commemorate the story of Novogrudok Jews and the Bielski Partisans in particular. You know, that reunion which we had 2 years ago inspired the participants, inspired me, inspired some other people who work for the museum to commemorate the Bielski Partisans there in the forest, at the camp site where there is nothing left. But you saw from Eli's pictures, like him putting a tefillin on his arm and praying, like Tuvia Bielski's granddaughter who put a mezuzah on the tree, because forest was the home for partisans. They spent about a year there in one place. They built a shtetl there, a small town, and the forest provided shelter for them. They were not familiar, not of them, all of them were familiar with the forest, but the Bielskis were, and they helped about 1,000 Jews to survive in the forest. So this story is really remarkable, and for various reasons, it was not really known and properly presented in any Holocaust museum, even not in Yad Vashem, until recently, and even now, the Bielski Partisans are different, from Abakovner or other Jewish partisans, because they were a family partisan group, because Tuvia Bielski, the commander, had an aim to rescue any Jew, to save lives. And the value of life in Judaism, it's the highest value. Life has the highest value. So this was not typical for the wartime when life cost nothing. And because Bielskis were not communists, they were not appreciated by the Soviet partisan command. And because they were not, of course they were Zionists, they were pro-Israel, but they didn't stay in Israel after the war, and they left for the United States. And it happened so that they were marginalized. So I believe that what we started doing 2 years ago and before that, because the museum exists since 2007, the Jewish Resistance Museum in Novogrudok. I believe that this is a very important process to finally pay respect and commemorate the Bielski brothers and all the Bielski partisans. And this year we are having a project in spite of the difficult situation in Belarus and in the world because of the pandemic. We have a project supported by the German foundation called Erinnerung, Vertrauung, Zukunft, EVZ, which is called Living Memorial, a concept for the Wannsee Conference House and the Bielski Partisans in Belarus. I want to commemorate the Bielskis in a special way, not by building a concrete museum in the forest or establishing, building a new, in fact, because there is nothing left. The partisan camp, those dugouts, zemlyankas, etc. But by celebrating life in the forest, by creating an opportunity for visitors to establish emotional connection, sensitive connection with the place. And to do this, well, we start this project this year with an artist from Germany and France, from Croker, who is German Jewish by origin, and a Belgian company called Medial. We are going to bring a group of teachers, graduate students, educators to the forest and have an interdisciplinary workshop there. And at the same time, a group of teachers and educators from Germany will work online with us. And then we'll have the same thing in Berlin when the German group will work on site, and we will follow online or participate online in their event, thus, creating a new way of dealing with a place of memory. So I will be glad to share the process, how it goes, our project, and the results. And we hope to have a big discussion with experts, with Eli, I invite you right now to participate, because there will be an opportunity to participate online. And my first task to you is, please think about what you would like to do if you were with us, okay? And send me your ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamara. Well, that was very interesting. I got to be honest, I'm a little bit, I don't know what the word is. It's shocked, but in a good way. And I'm speaking to somebody who's in Belarus, who has been running museums via someone who runs, Jewish communities around the world in Perth. Speaking to an elderly man who somehow managed to work out Zoom in Hungary. I'm humbled. I literally say that I don't even have the words. I'm just a little bit out of my comfort zone, because I'm just a surfer rabbi in a small little town at the bottom of Africa. And I just want to say it's been an honor to hear everybody and to meet you and to see faces. And I'd love to see, where you go with what you're doing. I hope also, my closing thought is, I did live in Hollywood for 10 years, or at least in Southern California. And I hope it's not only the Germans who are donating, but James Bond in that movie should also be donating, and Hollywood, you should get onto those guys as well, because they made money from the Bielski brothers. And it was a brilliant movie. I remember watching it when I was in Hollywood. So I hope that that's someone maybe that you can go to in the future as well. I'm going to give the podium to Eli to end off. Eli, if you have any closing thoughts or anything like that, and then we'll call it a day.
Daniel Craig's wife is Jewish, so we've got
I need
Okay.
connection to those people, you know. If you can help, I'll appreciate it very much.
Well, I'm glad you made it tomorrow, and I know it was touch and go, and you had some other plans and whatever.
Yeah.
But you know what? You know, as we say in Yiddish, it's beshet. There's a reason why we are here facing each other. So
Yeah.
there we go. And you know what?
Always.
When I first connected with Tamara, it was through Bielski Kaplinsky, who I didn't know, who's in Sydney, okay, because he came, and I don't know if you've seen the end of that movie where he sings Kaddish, okay, of Who Do You Think You Are? So I'd suggest you go out and get it from the library, and everybody, not Tamara, everybody, okay? And then send Tamara $10 when you enjoy the movie, because it is a very inspiring movie. And you know what? I think you were in the Lisa Kudrow movie as well, but this one was very, very special as well. So all I can say is this is how it all works. People around the world connect, no matter what your background is, and then we make things happen. And I think Tamara and I, it's, as I said, there's going forward. And Rabbi Ryan, I just want to thank you for putting this thing together. Hopefully it's the first of many for us.
Thank you. Someone asking what the movie's name was. Am I correct? It was Defiance.
Okay, so the movie was the movie's Defiance, but so that's with Daniel Craig, okay, and Lee Shuri, right? And that's based on Nechama Tech's book called Defiance, okay? And the Bielski family were very involved with making sure that everything was kosher in that movie. In other words, it wasn't fiction, okay? But the other thing that I'm talking about is originally the BBC series, but you've had them in South Africa because you've had Sapiro on it. And we've got it in Australia, and it's called Who Do You Think You Are? And that is a BBC series originally, but in Australia, somebody else. In America, it's NBC. And what they do is they get people's high-profile people, and they discover their family roots. And they're very inspiring movies. And you can imagine that Natasha Kaplinsky's story, not her own, but her family story, was very, very inspiring because of this various thing that we've been discussing tonight. So there we go.
Can I just say something very quickly?
Yeah, Addison's talking to us from England. Yes, Addison.
I've seen that film twice. It's brilliant. And I've read the book, but Who Do You Think You Are, when they have people on, there's a number of people, the same as in Hollywood, that discover that they have roots in the Jewish community, that their ancestors, and the Kaplinsky one, I actually cried at the end.
Yeah.
So, I've got tears now.
So when you get the resources that we're going to send to you, so I'll put my email address at the bottom. But,
I've got that. Thank you.
Is the important thing is to look at the essays that the great grandchild of this is the Dr. Kaplinsky, would be the grandchild. Yes. So Benny Kaplinsky's daughter wrote about her roots. Okay. And the story how she incorporated. And that's what they encourage students in schools around the world. But I know the Mariah School in Sydney have been doing it for many years. And they've got hundreds of essays. So this is also part of history. In actual fact, I'm trying to ask them where they've hidden them, because some of them have got lost. But certainly that one is not lost. And I've got a daughter-in-law who's half Sephardic and half Ashkenazi in Sydney, and she was school captain of that school. She went through that process, and I think their essays between her and her siblings is about 80 pages long. So it's very important we encourage kids to understand their roots. And as I said, lots of my wife is standing around the corner here. Her family were from Mir and from Slonim. Okay. And if you've heard of Blochs, the Cape Town Bloch family, there are lots of Blochs, but their particular Ephraim, her great-grandfather, was from that part of the world, and her grandmother. So it's very important we research our roots and we support people like Tamara when we can.
Fantastic talk, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eli. Thank you, Tamara. Thank you, Kozak. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Alison. I don't know if there were other speakers. Thank you, Solly. Whoever, if I left anyone else, thank you all for being here on a winter's day in South Africa. God knows how it is in Hungary and Belarus, but wherever it is, stay safe, stay healthy, stay smiling. That's what we all need to get us through these dark days. God, thank you all for being here. And there
Go
will be a
well,
report.
everyone.
Thanks to you, Rabbi. Thanks to you.
Pleasure, with pleasure and with love.
And I didn't mention him, but I see Herb Epstein's name is there. I hope he's still awake. He's in Melbourne.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Cheers,
thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you
Cheers, Eli.
so much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.